on our Veterans Voice radio show, and Ralph Nathan Oko. This is the second half of the show, Ralph.
Yes, it is. Halftime over. We're literally speaking to Dr. Faust Ruggerio, doctor of psychology. He's in Pennsylvania. This is Saturday, August 8th, and we're talking about his current book, the Fix Your PTSD Handbook. And I've given him a new title, The Fix It Doctor, because the other 6 books he wrote had in the title something with fix, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, during the break, Cindy and I started, and when you were able to talk to me in the middle of the break, I brought up the fact that, and I want to say, quote, end of quote, you don't understand me. Where I'm coming from is the people who are suffering from these injuries, traumatic injuries, physical, mental, whichever, they expect that people sympathize and recognize that they have problems. But they also expect them to be able to function almost like everybody else normally without those incapabilities or the injuries or traumas and so on. So the you don't understand me syndrome, do you ever have the patients ask for or do you recommend? In other words, do you ever have the patient bring in their spouse or their best friend or their children or their neighbor or their boss or their military officers from the past that they've kept in touch with? And does it work if you do?
The
Long
primary invitation usually, Ralph, is usually family. Most of the other people are probably not in their lives. You may have some supports, other military support. They come in at times. The first thing I do, however, I want to make sure that they feel comfortable with me. And when we talk about that syndrome, you talk about that. You're not going. You don't understand me. And what I normally say to them is, it's not about whether I understand you right now. It's about whether or not our conversation is going to increase and you're going to help me understand you. Are you telling me I can't understand you or you can't communicate what you need to communicate so I don't? If you take care of your end, I'll take care of mine.
Okay, yeah.
And when I put them in that position, then now that backs it. Now we're back to trust. Okay? It's not about me understanding. Do you trust me enough to give me your details, or are you using that as, well, I'm not going to talk to you because you'll never understand. Let's make sure that's not a cop-out. So why don't we try this together? Why don't you begin to talk of you? You don't have to tell me the whole story. Give me a few bits and pieces, and I'll tell you what I think about that, and you get an idea whether or not I understand.
Yeah.
Usually it works. In fact, it almost always works.
Yeah.
When the person realizes that they're not communicating because they don't trust enough to do it, or there's so much fear involved in getting that out. They think they're going to relapse on the spot. There's too much pain involved.
Yeah. Embarrassment.
They're not people that like to disclose to begin with.
Right.
There's all of that. So we want to get past all of that. Once I get past all of that and the person feels comfortable enough, then I'll get family in because I want them to make sure that they feel comfortable with that, because I don't want them to think that they're going to be ganged up on.
Right.
This family is going to come in and say, well, you know what? They don't do this with us anymore, or these responsibilities aren't done, or they're isolating, or they're drinking too much, or they're never home. I don't want it to get into a complaint session. And I make that very clear to the family. You are here to support, not to complain. I already know what's going on. Let's talk about how you can support your loved one so we can move because it's not just about moving that person who's traumatized, has the PTSD forward, because the whole family is suffering. We're moving the whole family forward.
Difficult, isn't it?
It just goes back to almost what you said with a caregiver. The person has all the physical and maybe mental problems, but you then get those because you're in the same situation.
Right, yeah.
Family members who live with someone who's traumatized, has PTSD, they're going to have their own form of those circumstances. So it's a family therapy want to do. It's not an attack session.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if I'm correct, a doctor's psychology cannot prescribe medication, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The reason I bring that up is when I was going, first of all, everybody thought they thought I'm building up a case for a lawsuit to get money. I was trying to fix myself. I couldn't remember. I had anger issues. I was dizzy. I couldn't remember things. I was trying to fix myself, and I'm not capable of doing that. And I'm sharing it with you on the air with my listeners so they understand. One of them may be going through exactly what I went through, and I'm still not recovered, never will, but I'm certainly going to work the hell out of it, see what I can do. And the reason I brought up the doctor, medication, and so on, I didn't want to go to a doctor that'll tell me what I want to hear. I wanted to go to a doctor that'll slap me in the face in a nice, polite way, say, wake up, Ralph, here's your problem. From what I understand what you're telling me, let's work on this. And one by one, I kept changing because I wasn't comfortable. Not that I would tell them anything, nothing to be shy about. But they leaned on medical, one prescription after another, and they wiped me out. I had no strength, I was wasted. It's like I was in a daze. And I don't want medical. I don't like drugs if I don't need them. I want to control my mind and my body, but I need help. Somebody's got to hold my hand. And what I found, I finally gave up on it for a while. And why do I smoke cigars? Well, years ago, I finally, my practitioner helped me. We did research with the ice pick headaches, and we couldn't find a cure. And I don't remember if it was the doctor or me, but we found an article on Google, on Wikipedia, that somebody wrote in that when they smoked cigars, not cigarettes, not pipes, not chewing tobacco, cigars, what they were doing is not inhaling, but the nicotine would go through the system, would go where it would flow to their mind. No different than having 2 shots of booze. Same effect. You get a little drowsy, a little dizzy, but the headaches go away, and you can kind of compose yourself and handle yourself a little better. So what I'm leading up to is, do sometimes have patients come to you that they've tried all the doctors and psychiatrists, psychologists, neurologists, I forgot what the term is. There's something like electronic neurologist. I forgot the term, with the needles and the testing and all that. And none of them really helped me. But then I found one who, a neurologist, that what he was doing, in his spare time, his hobby was racing race cars, like 500, Indianapolis 500. Kind of, and he had injuries from accident, and he gave me a series of shots that helped me, not forever, a continuous process, but he encouraged me to build my own self up, and in the process of trusting him more than all the others, I found that I can trust myself more and help myself more. How does all that relate to our listeners listening to you and maybe their problems? That how can you put all that together so we can help them and share my misery, so to speak?
Ralph, people come to me usually because somebody else said, you got to go, you need help.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so they get to me, and we go through, again, we get the trust going, we go through the problem. I as far as medicine is concerned, that's always a last resort for me.
Good.
When I started practicing over 40 years ago, probably 5% of my people came in the office and were on medicine. Today, it's 75%.
Whoa.
Wow.
So what we've become a pharmaceutical nation, and the medicines do not cure anything. They cover the symptoms,
the Band-Aids,
and they put you in a position to take them for the rest of your life, and that's exactly what they're designed for. So I try to keep people away from those unless we get into some other things, mental health things, high anxiety, bipolar, whatever. If it's really necessary, I'm not going to hold someone back, but I'm also not going to put them in a position to take something they don't need.
Good.
Then we go into the therapies. Again, it's talk therapy. We get all the facts out, but then we're working with some really good therapies now, particularly with PTSD, that are working. One of them is called EMDR. It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And what they're doing is they're having people tell their stories, but it's rapid eye movement side to side, and there's light sometimes they use to make that happen. And what it does is take the attention off of the emotions, and people are now using EMDR a lot with PTSD and cognitive processing therapy. Those two together are really working well. And the success rate is much, much higher than it's ever been. We're seeing a lot more people coming in now with PTSD symptoms, and a lot more people are recovering from them. One of the things about PTSD is people stayed away. They didn't want the counseling. Because the counseling is going to uncover. We're going to go back to the trauma, and they don't want to experience that. So they're afraid of it. They don't want to come in, and they don't do it. Now they're starting to realize that there are some real good therapies out there. People like myself are knowledgeable about what we're doing, and more veterans are coming forward. More first responders are coming forward, and we're seeing much more recovery. And so, and I like that they'll trust me on things. It's interesting. When I see a veteran, I never go up to them and say thank you for your service. I don't do that. I go to them and say, how are you today? What can I do to help you?
Yeah,
that's my way of being in service. That's my way of dealing with those folks. And I get the response I get is, this is really nice. It's something. Thank you for your service became hi, how you doing kind of a thing. I'm glad that people are doing it.
Yeah.
That they're not pushing people aside like we used to do, particularly for the Vietnam veterans. But we're at a point where that's nice, but we have to push past that. We have to recognize that these are not just a greeting. These are people. Let's go a little deeper.
Well, it's funny. I'm going to make you laugh because some of them, my listeners, will attest to what I do is I want to crack the ice. Now, if they're eating or talking, I leave them alone. But if I see a veteran, and I can see the opportunity, I go up there, and yes, I do say, thank you, I appreciate, and thank you, service. Was it the Civil War or the Spanish-American War? And 99.999, they crack up. I just cracked the ice. Now I can talk to them. And some of them open up, total stranger, me, in a restaurant or in a grocery store or Walgreens, whatever, but I made him feel comfortable for a couple of minutes. I made him smile, and I'm the joker and the clown in the sphere of things. My job in life is to try to make people put them at ease and make them smile. We're going to take the last break. Promise everybody. So when we get back, it'll be the fourth quarter, and yes, our team is winning. And all of you out there are part of our team with Dr. Faust. We'll be right back. Our Veterans Voice Radio.
I'm Dr. Tim Ioannidis at Treasure Coast Dermatology. At Treasure Coast Dermatology, we believe in the prevention and early detection of skin cancer. We are medical doctors, and we focus on the medical aspects of dermatology. You don't need a sales pitch for Botox, collagen, or wrinkle creams. You need a doctor that cares about you and the health of your skin. We feel by not trying to do too much, we can do more for our patients.
Call toll-free 877-870-DERM. That's 877-870-3376.
Meet Norma Howell, patient of Florida Eye Institute.
My sight to me is top priority because you lose your sight, you lose all of your independence. And so with me, it was scary. After meeting Dr. Shoemate, I had a joy. I knew I was going to be okay. My life is just 100+%.
Are you ready to experience truly exceptional patient care? Florida Eye Institute.
Hey, did you hear the latest about our Florida Highwaymen?
No, what?
There's a Highwaymen Art Gallery in Vero Beach.
Really? Where?
1872 Commerce Avenue.
Wow, when's it open?
7 days a week. Call 954-557-6226 for an appointment anytime.
No kidding?
Just call for your appointment, 954-557-6226, and then go to 1872 Commerce Avenue.
Wow, that's good news.
We are back on Our Veterans Voice Radio Show with Ralph Oko.
And we are with Dr. Faust in Pennsylvania today. We're talking about, by the way, Dr. Faust is the fix-it doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy and I, well, first Cindy's got a question, and then I want to get back to discussing something about repetitive injuries.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
go ahead. Cindy, you have a question I never even knew what it was. Maybe Dr. Faust can.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to
shed
ask
light
you,
on
Dr.
it.
Faust. What is your familiarity? A lot of people don't really recognize even the terminology of complex PTSD.
Complex, when we talk, Cindy, about PTSD, the simple PTSDs are that, that one event.
Okay.
I experienced. I was bullied that one time. I got beat up. I was in the war. I saw that one thing. Mm-hmm. The complex are the ones that happen. They're multiple and are often happening over a period of one's life. One might be abused as a child,
right,
and then grow up and then enter into a marriage where the abuse continues. Complex. It talks about multiples and over time. That's what we're really talking about.
It's pretty intense. I've talked with some psychologists, as doing stories and stuff like that, and a lot weren't familiar, but it's been a while since I actually did a story about it, and I was surprised that it wasn't more known. Or maybe it was a different label everyone was using.
Well, that's the labels,
It may be. But, really in the last 10 years, the complex PTSD's been there. We've been treating that, and a lot of times people don't. They didn't label it. People would come in and they say, "Well, what's happening?" Well, I'm in a bad marriage, and my spouse is abusing me, and then they focus on that. But then as you go backward, and you say, "Let's talk about your formative years and your family of origin." Well, Dad was an alcoholic, and he used to push me around.
Yeah.
So it really was a lifetime enterprise for that person.
Yeah.
A lot of times we get that, but it just wasn't being labeled as such. Now this is the generation of labels, So
Yes,
we
it
have
is.
labels for everyone and everything.
Yep.
Okay, let me ask you a question. And I'm asking for forgiveness before. I'm going to clean it up a little bit, but then I'm going to ask you, Dr. Faust, to relate the humor in my story, and how does that affect all of us and your patients, if you do agree with it at all. So there's a bunch of couples on a Saturday night are at somebody's house. They had dinner, they had cocktails, and they're just schmoozing and talking. And the conversation gets into what hurts more, a woman having childbirth, giving birth to a baby, or a man getting kicked in the groin. And it goes back and forth. Oh, this is bad. This is worse. Mine's worse, and so on. And finally, one of the men stands up and says, "Let me ask you a question. Now, I'm going to ask all you women this question. You've had a baby, right?" "Yeah." "Now, you've had a second or third child?" "Yeah." If all the trauma you went through before, during, and after childbirth, and after a period of time, some of the memory, the negative memory, is withered away, and now you have another child. Now the man turns to the men, says, "Raise your hand if any of you have ever been kicked in the groin, and go back and ask for another kick in the groin." Do you follow the pattern that I'm throwing, Dr. Faust?
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that in reality? I try to deal with humor, because when we lose humor, there's nothing left, in my
Absolutely.
opinion.
Ralph, obviously, most of us don't want to experience pain again.
Correct, exactly.
But the human brain is very complex. It differentiates between pain for a purpose versus pain just for pain. So
That's
the
a good
person
point.
getting kicked is, I'm not doing that again. It's going to double me up. I'll be sore and hurting for days, and the woman goes through childbirth, says, yeah, but there's a reason for that pain. The interesting thing when you relate that to abuse and PTSD, the brain also, we find structural changes where the brain normalizes that behavior, which would answer why, for example, a woman is in a bad relationship and keeps getting beat up and then leaves and then keeps coming back because the brain doesn't know how to function any other way but that. And being normal is actually it creates fear. And going back, they know exactly what to deal with. They know how to deal with the pain. So when we treat PTSD people, they know how to deal with the pain. So when we say, well, I want to bring you through this, go back to the trauma, they've already figured out ways in their mind to deal with the PTSD, and they'll live with it. They'll try to live with it. So getting them to go back and let's talk about the trauma and maybe get you into recovery. They have no idea what recovery is going to look like. They do not trust it. But they do know how to deal with the pain, and they have formulated ways to live with that pain.
So there is some truth and validity to that kind of sick humor. But the point is that there's some truth to it. Okay, now, one of the other things that Cindy and I talked about is because of the childbirth thing, I think that most men don't recognize the fact that when a woman goes through that traumatic experience, first getting pregnant, then carrying the child, and then bearing the child, and then living with the child, the baby at home, there is, I know there's a medical term for it, but isn't that, would you consider that one of the many forms or varieties of PTSD because it's so traumatic to the woman?
It can be. You have to focus. That's why I always say we take it back to the physical. A man trying to think about childbirth, no way, because the hormones don't change.
No.
For women going through that, they already have an idea of hormonal change with a monthly cycle. But now you get into the childbirth, and particularly the second time around, they have an idea what the hormones are going to do. The hormones prepare the body. The hormones prepare the mind for all of this. But in some cases, after childbirth, then they get into hormonal changes which don't work real well for them. And now we go into the depression that results from that. Again, very treatable once a woman gets to me and says, hey, I'm going through all this postpartum stuff. But they may just say, I'm depressed, and I say, well, you just had a baby? Well, gee, that was 6 months ago. I said, yeah, well,
still traumatic.
Welcome. We're going to go fix it because that's what it is.
Yeah. Good answer.
Well, Dr. Faust, believe me or not, 48 minutes on a radio show is nothing. You and I could probably, and Cindy could probably talk for the next 4 days straight through and not cover all the subjects. But unfortunately, all good things temporarily must be shelved. At the end of the show every week, Dr. Faust, we honor the veterans that have passed away, and this is the honor roll that we read and to the sound of taps. So, first of all, thank you very, very much. I'm looking forward to speaking to you again.
Before we hang up, as you know, I do my own radio show, and I'd like to get you as a guest on it.
Whoa!
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
so
I'm
what do you
flattered.
think about that?
I'll meet your challenge.
You're going forward.
You're going. Here we go. Peter Edwin Giuliano, Army.
John Mitchell Lynn, Army, Vietnam.
Patrick Joseph Wiley, Marine Corps, Vietnam.
Napoleon Villaboa Yaren, Marine Corps, Vietnam.
Dr. Lee Hopp, First Responder.
James Snooky Arthur Williams, Army, Vietnam.
Reverend Father Christopher P. Myers, Air Force.
Fred Ames Geary, Army and Air Force, World War II and Korea.
U. Robert Beef, Army.
Glenn A. Dell, Army Reserves.
Arnold E. Thompson, Navy.
Ronald Kotick, Army Signal Corps, Korea.
Thomas R. Nason, Air Force.
Vincent Pastore, Navy, Vietnam, and all of our other fallen heroes. Thank you. From the bottom of our heart, thank you for your service. We proudly salute you and rest in peace forever.